Hello, and welcome to Reel Recollections,
That's not how I remember it.
where we revisit our favorite childhood entertainment and see if it holds up to our jaded adult lives.
This season we'll be rediscovering all of Disney's animated classics. Today we're starting at the beginning with Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. Here we go!
Now we hear from our local cartoon expert with our plot in a pinch.
Roll the camera, Sam!
Beauty can be dangerous. When Snow White is declared the fairest of them all, the queen, in classic evil stepmother fashion, overreacts a smidgen and demands Snow White's heart be brought to her in a box. More than a little disturbed, Snow White flees into the forest where she makes unlikely friends with seven dwarfs. Then songs are sung, evil plans are hatched, apples are eaten, a witch falls off a cliff, someone kisses a dead person, and they all live happily ever after.
Wow, that was really great.
Oh,
That's our cousin Sally. She is, wow.
just the sweetest.
Yeah, she'll be a
Yeah.
great orator and...
I guess. I didn't know she would be... We didn't even have to really coach her on that. I was really impressed.
Honestly, almost perfect the first take, so super
Yeah.
glad about that.
So now you know us. We like to pat ourselves on the back. So that's something you already know about
Pat myself
us.
on the back a
Oh,
little
wow,
bit. Here,
what a
pat,
great
pat.
intro. We're so great at this.
I liked it. I mean, can we just take a minute and appreciate sound effects?
Wow, what great music
Wow.
production.
They just really have everything together. This is all a lie. Anyways, I'm Jonah,
And I'm Mary.
and this is our first time doing a podcast, which is super exciting and super scary. I'm sweating. So,
Well, the room's really hot. But also, it's definitely really clean, right, Jonah? And
absolutely don't talk
very
about
fancy.
that.
And we're wearing like a gown and a tuxedo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, always imagine me like no. Brad Pitt and Chris Pine had a baby,
Oh my gosh.
and then 10 times more attractive than either of them. Just whenever I speak, imagine that.
It's terrifying. But we can look like anyone we want. I mean, I feel like we should just be those podcasters who never put their photo up so that it
Absolutely.
never shatters the illusion. Like, I am the most lovely human on the planet.
Exactly.
Or whatever my voice sounds like. I have no idea.
Because obviously beauty means that you're really smart and everything, so.
Speaking of beauty.
Oh!
Oh, see that segue there.
Great.
Today we're talking about Snow White, of course, in case the 30-second sum up and the introduction didn't give you a clue about that. And so the way we're going to kind of go about it was we're going to start with how we remembered it when we were kids. Yep. So I don't actually... I don't remember watching Snow White when I was a kid, like how I felt about it. So I asked my mom, our mom actually, me and Jonah are our brother and sister.
Don't tell them that. They know. Now they know too much.
They know too much.
Just kidding.
This recording will explode in. So yeah, our mom, I asked her if she remembered us watching Snow White at all, or me watching Snow White. And she said that I guess when we were 4 years old, me and my sister Heidi and some of our cousins were all watching Snow White one night, probably on VHS. And that was kind of like a DVD or a digital download for those of you who don't know what a VHS is. I don't know. Anyway, you could watch movies with it. And
I don't think we're that old yet. I don't
there are
know.
some kids who don't know what a VHS is.
Does Sally know what a VHS is?
I don't know. I guess we'll have to ask her. We'll let you know. what
Next
she
time we'll let
says.
you know if Sally
In
knows.
case that was a
what
burning
VHS
question.
is.
So she said we were all watching it, and I guess the part where, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Snow White, where she takes a bite of the apple and falls into the eternal sleep of death, etc. When she's about to take the bite, apparently all four of us toddlers were standing up right next to the TV and screaming, "Don't eat the apple! Don't eat the apple!"
I mean, it's hard not to, right?
It's hard not to.
You're watching the movie, you're like, obviously that lady is evil!
Look at her nose, her face!
Because if media has taught us anything, is that beauty means that you're trusting,
I know.
trustable, and ugliness means
I hated myself even as I said it.
No, but I mean, seriously, that witch was evil, and if Snow White couldn't tell
Also,
that,
just don't take
honestly,
food from people that you're not sure about. You don't know where that lady got that fruit.
I mean, we have to give her credit
could've
because
stolen
she
it.
did say no the first, 5 times.
It's true.
Anyways, my memory with Snow White... So, my main memory that I had before I watched it, because while I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, they're gonna do that! And it's, oh, yes, the turtle! I love the turtle! I don't know why they didn't name the turtle. Anyways.
Jonah's greatest disappointment.
So, I'm the sweeper in our family. I always sweep the floors. And the very first time I ever swept, I was 5 or 6 years old. And my dad was like, sweep the kitchen. And I said, okay. I was actually excited because we had recently watched Snow White. And she made cleaning look so much fun.
So why you work.
Yes. Whistle while you work. So I was sweeping and I was doing that back and forth sweep that you see her do in the movies. And my dad was like, that's not how you sweep. And I said, yes, it is. I watched Snow White and that's how she sweeps. And I saw how that cabin looked before and after. So
already driven by evidence and, very well thought out.
So I remember it took my dad at least 3 times of correcting how I was sweeping to actually change anything. Because I thought for sure this was how it was supposed to be done. You just don't sweep it into the rug, and you don't sweep it into the mouse hole.
You go back and forth.
That's it.
Yeah.
Not the mouse hole. The mouse home thing in the wall. Hole in the wall.
What is that called? Isn't it called a mouse hole?
Mouse hole? Is it called a mouse hole? I don't know.
Mouse house?
Anyway. That's my main memory of Snow White. Honestly, it was so long ago that I watched it.
It was funny. I felt like as we watched it, and as we go through, we're going to talk about it, but as we were watching it, I was like, oh, I know what's going to happen. I remembered so many of the gags.
Yeah.
They were very memorable for us.
And you know what? Something I just remembered is everyone in our family, whenever we say, want to know a secret? The next person always says, promise not to tell. And then we all break out into song. We are standing by, wishing well.
You know too much about us.
And sometimes it goes on much longer than that.
So some of my other siblings, we used to always also make fun of the other song.
Right before, what's the name of the song?
Someday My Prince Will Come.
Someday My Prince Will Come.
Yeah, where she's like, once there was a princess.
And they're like, was the princess you?
And she fell in love.
Was it hard to do?
No, it was very easy.
We think that part's so
oh my gosh,
funny.
we thought it was so funny.
No, it's very easy. Falling in love is as easy as just looking at someone.
That's why I'm in love and I have a boyfriend and all those things.
Exactly. It's so easy.
It's very easy.
Well, maybe it's easy if you're Snow White and you're the fairest in the land.
It probably is. And also she's really sweet, so that helps her as well. But yeah, so that's all I really remembered about it before we watched it.
Yeah, should we get into our next section?
Yep.
So you just heard how we remembered it. This is how it happened, where we talk about some of the history and maybe some of the cool facts that you didn't know about how this movie came to be.
Our disclaimer is, of course, that we're not historians. And I guess that's it.
But we are... Well, you're a millennial. I'm Generation X.
I have no idea.
Doesn't matter. The point is, we're professional Googlers, and we even bought a couple books.
I mean, that's pretty good for our day and age. Come on. I spent money on this.
We watched a documentary. This is all for you so that you do not have to do this.
Although, actually, I would recommend some of them. We'll talk about them.
Yeah, totally. You can go and listen to them if you want, but if you don't, just know you're getting everything. Just kidding.
All the information. Every single thing you would want to know about this, we're about to tell you. So, Snow White came out in 1937. It was during the Great Depression era, actually, which is significant because of course, people aren't wanting to lend money, people aren't going to the movies maybe as much, etc. And so, actually, as Disney was making this movie and kind of bringing it about, people called it Disney's folly because they thought he was just going to lose all of his money.
For sure.
Yeah. It was the first time they had ever attempted to make a full-length animated feature.
And nobody thought that people would sit through a full-length animated movie, because up to that point, I mean, you have to have some perspective. They only had those cheesy little Mickey Mouse shorts and Melody Time and...
No, Melody Time's not yet. That one's technically
that's later.
full
Sorry,
time.
what is it called?
I don't know.
Goddess of the Spring.
Oh, yeah.
These little shorts where, honestly, if I had only seen those animated features, and then they said, oh, we're going to make a full-length feature, I would go, do I really want
Can I watch that for an hour and a half?
Yeah, is that going to be something I'm going to enjoy?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I definitely, as like a 5-minute thing to make you laugh, or, I don't know, they're really great, but I don't know, for an hour and a half, that might get old. So that's definitely what the people of that time was thinking in 1937, and they thought this was just going to be a total flop, especially because Walt Disney put $1.7 million into it, which sounds super cheap nowadays, but that was 4 times the amount most people put in their movies at that time.
Yeah, the equivalent in today's money of $1.7 million is about $30 million.
30 million, which is not as high. So we looked it up. The live action of Aladdin that just came out, what they spent almost $180 million on it or more.
Yeah, so it's less than we would spend now, but it was 4 times what people would spend back then.
Yeah, and it was during the Great Depression, so it was just this huge risk that he was doing. He was spending everything on this movie.
And his wife even was like, what are you doing with all of our money? Putting it into this animated thing. And so I can see why people would have been worried about it, but obviously he was right.
It must have been stressful for him. He's like, if this doesn't work out, this is the end.
I don't know if Disney ever got that worried about stuff, though. I mean, probably did secretly, but I mean, from like the interviews we watched and things and I read about, they all said, oh yeah, he just seemed like he thought we could do it, so we were like, I guess we can do it.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But, obviously, it went well.
It was a success.
Yeah. It had a bunch of firsts. In addition to being the first animated film, it was also the first film to ever feature a soundtrack. I mean, films had soundtracks, but they released for commercial buying a full
Consumption.
Soundtrack. Yeah. The full soundtrack of Snow White. And that was a first time for that. It was the first time they used a multiplane camera.
Yeah. And we didn't know what that was. So if you know what that was, you can just skip the next couple minutes.
Pat yourself on the back for being smarter than everyone in the room.
You can brag about it, make a comment. I already knew that. We would love that.
We love it because we know you listened to our podcast.
Yes. So here's what a multiplane camera is. So how they made animated films before this is they would have a background picture, and then they would... I'm doing a lot of hand gestures, so... I wish you could see them. Yes. I'm going to communicate them with my voice. So they'd have a background picture, and then they would have this... clear plastic
sheet.
I can't think of the word for it right now, where they would have an oil painting on it and
of
then
the character,
and then they would put it on and take a picture of it and then put the next one on, take a picture of it, and move the background with them as they walked.
Yeah, so you can see Mickey kind of interacting. They do like there's a video you can watch on YouTube where they explain it, and
we'll post a link.
Yeah, we'll post a link. But Mickey like walks all throughout the painting kind of thing. Right. Yeah.
And as long as Mickey is on the screen and we don't change perspective from the camera's point of view, it looks like it's 3D because Mickey can go far into the painting and he can come forward in the painting.
By just changing him on that little clear sheet in front.
Right. But the problem is if you start to zoom, then everything will get bigger. Where if you're walking down the street...
and you see the mountain...
Yeah, there's a mountain 10 miles away, and then there's a church 3 miles away.
Yeah.
And there's a couple signs in front of you. They're going to move at varying speeds because of their relationship.
Right, the mountain's not going to get much bigger as you go 5 feet into the painting, right? Or 5 feet down the street, I guess I should say.
Exactly. So Walt Disney wanted to fix this problem, so he created the multiplane camera, where from the side it kind of looks like a ladder, but it basically holds these big sheets of
glass
that have the background painting on them, and they'll break up the layers. So they'll have on the first layer the painting with the signs,
right.
And then the next one they'll have the church, and then the next one they'll have the mountains,
and then maybe behind that you have the moon or the sun, or whatever, because that would never move, right?
So that way, as they're filming it, they can move these at varying speeds, and it looks a lot more like real life, and it looks way more 3D.
3D, yeah. And the way the camera is the camera's up above shooting down through this ladder of glass. You can go look it up. We're doing our best to describe it, but it's huge, too.
Yeah, really big.
Yeah. And then they, of course, would paint in oil on those to get that effect.
Yeah, except for Snow White's face. Because they were trying as hard as possible to make these characters look real, especially the human characters. So with the animals and the dwarves, it was okay if they were more cartoony, like their previous things. But with the prince and Snow White, they wanted them to look real. So for Snow White's face, they actually used makeup to make her look more realistic.
I think they actually did the oil and then they put makeup on top of it. Because they wanted her to actually look like a girl, which was kind of the first time they'd ever done that. Yeah. It was actually kind of funny because one of the documentaries we watched talked about how the ladies who were in charge of putting the makeup on, Disney talked to them and was like, I'm just concerned about whether you know where to put the makeup and stuff like that. And then women were kind of like, what do you think we do every day? We know where makeup goes on the face, no matter where she's turned. Anyway, I just thought it was funny. But the film in general was kind of the first time they had tried to really capture realistic human motion, human features, like a normal human, rather than a caricatured Mickey or the dwarves or anything like that. So they hired, for a lot of animated films, after this, too, they hired a live model to portray different things. So for Snow White, her name was Marjorie Celeste Belcher. Hopefully I said that right. But she was actually a dancer, and they had her, put on a Snow White kind of dress, and they would film her doing all sorts of different things, dancing, instructing the animals to go this way or that way, and then the animators would then watch that and watch how her dress moved, how her arms moved, how her face changed, and try to kind of copy it.
Yeah. She actually even had the same hair as Snow White, and I don't know for sure, but I wonder if her hair came first or if Snow White's hair came first.
Yeah,
do you think they would have had her cut it?
I don't
to look like Snow White's?
I don't know.
She probably had her hair like that before.
I mean, that was kind of a fashion back then, the 30s, right? That kind of bob.
Yeah.
Curly bob thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. But anyways, here we come to the premiere. And like we said before, obviously it's huge success. People are giving standing ovations. They're crying. Nobody expected going into this animated feature-length film to be touched. But, I mean, if you watched this film recently and you see those dwarves take off their hats and you see their bald heads and they're like
Grumpy puts the
crying, Grumpy puts the flowers on top of her. Yeah, it's just too much. I mean, I got emotional this last time. I wasn't like, tears weren't coming down. I wasn't sobbing, but it was emotional, and this is unprecedented. Unprecedented. It's unprecedented. Am I saying that right?
Yes, you're saying it right.
Unprecedented. It is a crime how many times I said that word. At the time, to do something like this, to tell a really beautiful and thought out, realistic story.
Yeah, when we were talking about people like Clark Gable is one of the people they said were kind of sniffing and and Charlie Chaplin was there, Judy Garland was there. This was a big time premiere. Like, they got really star power there to watch it. Shirley Temple was there.
Yeah.
It's a big deal to me. I'm like, Shirley Temple was there, and that's all that matters.
Charlie Chaplin, he actually said that Dopey was... In Dopey, they had created, like, the best comedian of all time? Or
kind of like the generation or something. Yeah.
Something along that lines, like... the point was, Dopey's really funny.
Yeah.
So, yeah, within 6 months, the show made $8 million, or something like that. Yes. So
800,000, I think, was how much it made within like. Oh wait,
no, because within 6 months they had $2 million
in the bank. You're right.
Bank.
It was 8 million. Yeah, in the first
or like
to a year
in the first bit while it came out.
So he just got all that money back.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's how they basically built the studio off of the money from Snow White. We wouldn't have Disney at all without Snow White. So whether or not you like Snow White, I guess we wouldn't have it without any of the other Disney movies without her.
Yeah, and if you don't like Snow White, you're just wrong, because it's amazing. Thank you.
I guess we know where you're landing on this. In the end.
Should we end the podcast there?
Snow White, the end. So that's a little bit of history for you.
One more thing, though.
Oh, yeah.
Snow White was nominated for the best song.
It did win best soundtrack.
It won best soundtrack
in the Academy Awards.
It didn't get nominated for a specific song, though.
I don't think so.
Okay, but then a couple years afterwards, 1939?
Yeah, it was 1939. Shirley Temple actually was able to, present an honorary Academy Award to Disney for Snow White for its innovation and everything, right?
Yeah.
And it was a special Academy Award, which I think is adorable. It was the big Oscar, of course. And then they had 7 small Oscars for the 7 dwarfs, which I think is really cute. Yeah.
We should put a link to that picture as well.
Yeah, we'll put a link to that picture as well. I had something else I was going to say about.
So technically it won 2 Academy Awards.
I guess so. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Actually, because of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, Disney was given an honorary, honorary doctorate or degree from Harvard.
Really?
And like a bunch of other schools. Yeah, for its, for the innovation again.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I just read that recently.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so he was, even in the more intellectual sphere, he was really lauded for it.
I'm sure it just really blew people's minds. If you look at the animated films that he made just a couple of years before, and then Snow White, it doesn't look like he made a couple of years of progress. It looks like they made 20 years of progress.
Right, well, Goddess of Spring, like you said, was they'd started trying to maybe portray real humans, but Snow White is so much better. Like, we watched them.
It's not even close.
It's not even close. And they were still having troubles.
Weird.
They were still having troubles with, like, the princess stuff, but we'll get up to all that. Okay, well, so that's a little bit of history for you. And now we're going to kind of move into how it is now for us. Okay.
Yeah, so we just watched this last night.
Yeah, so it's fresh on the mind. Disney Plus. Plug.
Yeah. Get Disney Plus.
So, the movie begins. I have to say, it begins rather dramatically with that huge chord.
Yes, yeah.
They knew drama.
I really appreciated the music.
Yeah.
Watching it. I mean...
You get that overture.
Yeah.
Just starting right away, and you're like, oh, I actually really like this music. I think we always make fun of the music of Snow White because of her shotgun vibrato, but the melodies are really lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, even the scoring, I mean, in movies today we have so much like electrically modified instruments, which is great, and it's its own thing, but there's something really nostalgic and beautiful about just the symphony orchestra. Like,
yeah, you can tell they all got in a room and they recorded it all together.
And there was no digital editing, so they could plan the music exactly with the film. There's some really great moments where like the turtle's falling down the stairs and it's like and then he hits the wall, and it's just, I don't know, it's just really fun.
Yeah. Yep. Actually, that term, I was just reading about it. They call it Mickey Mousing, which I've heard before.
Yeah, I talked about it in my music history class.
Yeah, me and Jonah are both musicians. by the way. So if it sounds like we're getting really into the music discussion,
We might be a little heavy on the music.
it's because we're both musicians. We both sing. And so, yeah, that Mickey Mouse scene of the music matching exactly what happens. I've always loved Mickey Mouse scene, even in singing in musicals that we've done. I know there's probably some people out there going, "Oh, I hate that."
Yeah.
But I think there's sometimes it's just really fun and really
It's super great.
lovely music moving you, you know?
Yeah, so it starts with that big chord.
And that big overture, like those old movies, of course, which always used to seem like they went on for literally ever. The credits that came before the movie. But this one didn't feel very long to me.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
And it was filled with all these really nice acknowledgments from Disney to all the people who worked on it. Remember that?
Yeah, the kind of the last...
I don't know if that was added in later or...
I doubt it. I bet it
There
was
were definitely a couple things like the well water, and there were a couple other water scenes where like the water...
It looked like they had, maybe...
It actually looked really good, but
yeah.
I was like, what?
They probably remastered it.
Animation is this? It was really impressive. But I'm sure it wasn't, period.
Yeah, they probably remastered it.
But the Queen, is really dramatic to start with the Queen and not, the protagonist.
Yeah, it is interesting that it starts with the Queen. And it starts with that, I read about this, it starts with that shot of the castle with the light, right? And you come into the light. They actually say that a lot of filmmakers were really inspired by Snow White. And so some people say that Orson Welles, right, did Citizen Kane, which, like, if you film history, everyone's like, Citizen Kane, because of all those different shots and all those things. And the first shot of Citizen Kane is of like a castle-like structure, right? His kind of house with the window. And so people think that that's part of his inspiration for that really was cool. Possibly Snow White, which is crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and then the picture of, the image of the Queen is also very striking. They went through a lot of different ideas for how the Queen would look. At first, she was kind of like the stout, like, kind of queenly looking lady, I guess.
Dowdy-looking lady, you know?
But then she became this, like...
fashionista.
I don't know why she gives me, like, figure skating vibes. That's really
random.
That's really random, I know, but...
I think her little head thing almost looks like a nun habit.
Yeah.
But, like, like what they would wear underneath. But very elegant, like very clean lines, very beautiful, which is just such an interesting way to go with
Anyways,
her.
I love how they just jump right into the story, and then it moves so fast.
Yeah, it does. So we get that first, of course, mirror on the wall, which, by the way, I'd never noticed until this time. I don't know because I'm an adult. But she calls the mirror the slave, and I'm like, is someone going to set the mirror free at the end of this movie?
Yeah.
I got suddenly very concerned about this for a second.
And then that character's name is not the magic mirror. It's the slave.
Yeah, that's right. When we looked up character names, it said slave/mirror, which I thought was really interesting. But
it's really crazy.
Yeah, and that design on that mirror, so iconic, of the mask.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have done anything, but that mask is really haunting.
How did he get in there?
How did he get in that mirror?
Is that like a soul,
Yeah, I have no idea.
The Queen's evil enough, I would totally...
Oh, totally. Yeah, the Queen's very scary, actually. I thought this when I was a kid. He always seems like a little happy to tell her, yeah, you're not the fairest of them all anymore. Take that, mistress.
Then we see Snow White singing the song, Someday My Prince will... Wait.
No.
Oh, I'm wishing.
With that delightful echo and everything.
And her goat vibrato.
And her friend birds. She has a lot of bird friends.
Which I love. The birds
I love the birds.
They're looking into the wall.
I know, it's so cute. I loved it.
And then her prince comes. And I don't know if you're like me, you're like, why is the prince only in like 2 scenes? And then even in those scenes, if you watch closely, they almost never show him.
Do they ever show his face?
Yes, because he kisses her.
Yeah, but don't they show it from the side?
I think you see his face at least once.
Okay.
Anyways, there is a reason. And it's because they had a really hard time animating male gestures and physicalizations. I think part of it is that they don't wear dresses. And so they have to think about how the whole body moves at once.
Yeah. They didn't really explain it, but they said that they had a really hard time capturing realistic male gestures, which I think is interesting because they also had the huntsman. Do you think it's just because he's more characterized, the face, with the kind of droopy jowls and everything?
Yeah. Still, you don't see him move that much, because in the first scene with him, he's just standing there.
Oh, and then he's just standing there again.
Yeah, he's standing in the background, and then he comes forward, and I don't think you might see one full shot, but I think mostly you just see it from the top up.
Yeah.
And he's not in it that much either.
I guess just because you see his face.
But he's in it almost as much as the prince.
Yeah, he's another guy I was worried about later in the
film.
film.
But if you watch the prince at the end, because you do have some far away full body shots, he kind of marches. He doesn't really just normal walk, so
yeah.
While you're watching it, you can look for that.
Yeah.
At the end.
But yeah, so the prince, of course, comes. And I love that scene. It was actually really romantic and sweet. I don't know. Yeah, I like the little part where the bird comes and kisses his cheek for Snow White. And Snow White, it's very theatrical. I read something where it talked about how the whole thing is kind of like an operetta or an opera. Very theatrical, right? Yeah. So if you've ever noticed, so one of the things we make fun of course, you heard that we make fun of it, is kind of her rhyme scheme.
Yes.
Coming into things. Want to know a secret? Promise not to tell. It's very rhymed.
Well.
Yeah, I'm here by wishing well. So it kind of has that metered sound to it. But that was intentional. I guess Walt Disney really hated how in Hollywood sometimes they would just randomly burst out into song and it didn't really fit the story and it didn't move the story forward and he didn't like the transitions. And so he worked really hard to make the transitions feel more natural.
Yeah.
And so they intentionally made the speeches going into the songs musical, kind of.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you do opera, it's like recitative. Wow. Recitative. Wow.
You can call it recitative too, I guess.
So, which is where you would sing on one pitch, kind of the conversation part, and then go into a song or an aria.
It usually gets more orchestrated, more complex right before the aria begins.
Right.
Kind of like, okay, now we're going to go into this. And I love that about animated films. And I love songs in animated films because you have more of, like, suspension of belief. And so it's kind of weird in these, I don't know how you guys feel about the live action remakes. I don't like them.
They do not hold up.
Yeah, the music's not as good. Anyways,
we'll have an episode where
we'll talk about it. But the thing I don't like about it is that they seem to have taken out a lot of the gradually going into song. I think like when the genie sings his song in Aladdin, I've mentioned that movie 3 times in this episode. He's like, hit it, Abu, and then he starts this like weird boom chuck 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 thing, and he starts singing it, and it's really awkward. And then he goes into it almost like it's a joke, and I don't know.
Maybe it's because it's live action; it feels more.
I think
natural.
I think that's part of it. So I don't know. I just love this format of media for songs. It's really great.
Yeah, but you can hear how they kind of naturally work into it. Yeah, so we move on. Of course, the queen sees all this happening and is horrified / just really scary, creeping out the window. Does the queen ever go outside when it's light out? Just kidding. She does later when she's the hag, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Snow White, what I was going to say about the theatrical is that she literally closes the curtain on that first scene. She closes the curtains to the castle and the scene's over, and it's really romantic and sweet. Yeah, I love that. Sweet? Well, no, Snow White. Not the queen.
Oh,
the queen closes
the
curtain earlier where she's like, I hate that.
Oh, yeah, I was imagining the queen the entire time.
But like, how sweet. The queen just closes the curtains. No, but at the very end of the scene, Snow White slowly closes the curtains.
Yeah. Yeah,
This is the end of the scene, really romantic, very theatrical. But then we go on to the heart box.
She sends the huntsman after her, and then the huntsman can't kill her. She runs into the forest. It's actually a really scary scene with all of these. It really plays into like your childhood fears where...
Yeah, I totally got vibes of when you go outside to take the trash out at night, and you're coming back, and you're like, there's nothing scary behind me, but it doesn't matter. You're gonna run. Like, you're like, I know there's nothing scary in this nice neighborhood where I live, but I'm still gonna run flat out, like sprint from the garbage can to the front door.
Because your state of mind affects so much of how you view the things
because they could be anywhere. They could be behind that flower. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it was really ingenious. Like, she falls into the water, and it moves the logs that were in the water, and then they're alligators.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that whole scene is really beautiful and scary.
Yeah.
I think as a kid, I was watching it, I was really scared. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember as a kid being scared of that scene.
And then I think the song right after that, I think that's actually my favorite song in the whole thing.
Yeah.
And you might have not noticed it. We didn't notice it when we were kids, but I think the bluebird that sings with her in that song, that I think that's the bird that she was trying to help find its parents at the beginning.
That was one of the biggest things I noticed about it this time, was there were so many like little relationships in the animals and things that they were just so detailed about. Because that scene where Snow White comes from the castle and is like out with the huntsman, which you have to think, it has to be like a special day out, because we saw Snow White just in the last scene in like rags, and now she's in like a really nice dress with like the collar and everything.
Right.
Maybe the queen didn't like to send Snow White out looking bad because she didn't want anyone to know that she was treating her so badly or something. So she's like, here's a dress. Go out and get your heart cut out.
Or maybe she wanted to ruin her best dress. So she's like,
dark.
why don't you have a nice day out and wear your nicest dress, and then I'm going to kill you.
So dark. But while she's there, that's when she meets the little bluebird, and the bluebird's like crying, cheeping, like, oh, I can't find. She's like, oh, you can't find your parents. Oh, that's so sad. And she's really nice to her, and she's like, oh, give me a smile, that kind of thing, just being her Snow White self. And then of course she gets interrupted by the huntsman trying to knife her. But but that comes back in, like Jonah said. Later, you see a bluebird who looks like the same bluebird, only now he's with his parents.
Yeah.
And he sings a duet with Snow White. And they're like, this little bluebird family is like throughout the film. Go watch it. It's beautiful. Every time it happened, I was like,
oh, I love this bluebird family. And they're so proud of their child.
I know.
Except for when he messes up that one singing part. And they're like, ooh, that was bad. Dang parents.
So yeah, you get the whole animals, which you have to think that has to be one of the
there's
early...
the turtle too. I love the turtle.
I know. Gotta love the turtle.
My favorite.
I love the deer are so sweet and like beautiful too.
Yeah, elegant.
Yeah. But
there are a couple really standout animals in his film.
The other ones need to pick up their slack.
Yes.
Yeah,
I also love the rat that blows out the dirt that they brushed into his hole, and he's like
during the cleaning song, yeah. But yeah, the animals are just all have a lot of personality, and they're just really fun. I think that this had to be one of the first times, because that's kind of a trope, right, of Disney now. Like, the animals love the princess, and they help her. But, like, this had to be the first time. That must have been really magical for kids to imagine all these animals.
Oh, and, like, they could have these relationships with the animals, too. I don't know if everyone else feels the same way, but I find relationships with animals very... amazing.
If you want to recommend a show to Jonah, let it include some sort of magical creature making friends with someone else. I don't know.
If the animal dies, I will kill you. No, I won't. No, unless it's really bad.
If you have a good movie about animals dying,
that scene where they're cleaning up is amazing, and she's like teaching them how to do it. She's like, not under the rug.
I know, I was like, this film could have been a training film for kids to clean, right?
She's like, this is how you wash the windows, this is how you sweep the floor, which is wrong.
It's actually funny because we were watching it, and there's the part where the deer is licking the plates to wash them.
Yes.
And they're like doing it with their tail and stuff, and I was like,
and then he licks himself, and then he licks
he licked himself, and then he licks the plate, and I was like, that is not clean. And Snow White, right after I thought that, went, oh no, you have to put it in the tub. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm really with it.
And actually, all these gags, Disney actually would give all of his workers a bonus if they came up with a gag. So it was $5 a gag.
Yeah. Which is like 50 to 100. Yeah,
today it's like $50.
Yeah.
Somewhere between $50 and $100 per gag. So whenever you came up with something that was really good, you get
$5 for bonus. It. And you can see that all throughout the film. Like, it's just littered with gags. There's not a moment on screen where something funny or clever isn't kind of happening.
Moving the story is really great.
Yeah.
There was actually originally 25 songs written for Snow White, but they cut it down to 8 because they wanted the story to keep moving. So there was a song about making a bed and a bunch of other songs.
He's drinking the soup at dinner.
Yeah. Someday My Prince Will Come originally had a dream sequence that they took out because they didn't want to detract from the story and from Snow White's storytelling.
Yeah, exactly. So then right after this cleaning scene happens, which is really magical. And I couldn't believe how many gags from that I remembered from when I was a kid. I remember being scared of that spider when they're like winding up the spider yarn. You know what I'm saying? Like they're winding up his web, the one little chipmunk, and the spider comes down. I was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, that really disturbed me as a kid. I guess I was tender, I don't know. But right after that, we kind of move out of this and kind of fade out, which I read was intentional too by Disney, because he wanted that not clean cut from the song to like something else. So it kind of fades out, right? You kind of hear them continually bustling and cleaning. And then it fades into the second working song, Hi-ho.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
They go from working to working.
They go from working
Everyone's
with
working.
the cleaning. Everybody needs to work. That's what Snow White's telling us. And
work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
Oh my gosh, don't bring that into this. This is a Snow White, Jonah. So it moves into the dwarves. And I don't know. Loved it. I love the dwarves. Although I have to say, this is not my favorite sequence of the film.
No, but I do love the part where they put all the jewels in the vault.
Oh my gosh.
We were watching it and I was like, oh, who would ever like label above their door vault?
Yes.
It's just like, oh, somebody should break into there. And then they lock it, but then they hang the key right next to it.
Yeah, Dopey hangs it right next to the door. I was like, that doesn't look secure. And then it was made even less secure with the fact that he hangs the key up next to it.
And we were talking about these dwarves literally mine thousands of gems a day. Like, this mine is filled with gems, and they live in this
gems.
cut gems. They like come cut, and they live in this tiny little cottage that has 2 rooms, as far as we can tell.
They all sleep in the same room, you
They
guys.
sleep in the same room.
These guys, they're cheapskates.
Buy something nice for yourselves.
Just a mansion or something. Seriously. Oh my
but then
gosh.
I think my favorite scene of the whole thing is when the dwarves get back and they're sneaking around and Doc keeps messing up his words and telling people what to do, and he's like, don't be afraid, and he's trying to
She's shaking like crazy.
He's trying to hand Dopey the candle, and he's like, don't be afraid, take it, and Dopey can't grab it because he's shaking so much.
Oh my gosh.
It's
That's
so
right.
funny, and Dopey's walking up the stairs, and we're right behind you.
And they're all down there, which is exactly what happens. That's exactly what happens when you're all kids again, and you're sending like your sibling out to.
It's always the youngest.
It's always the youngest
because they can be manipulated.
Yeah, exactly. You're like,
you have been chosen.
You've been chosen,
and there's nothing you can do about it.
You go out and touch that, or you go out and take the garbage out. You're like, I'm right here by the door, holding it one crack open so you can only see my eye. Or whatever it is. This is not even like a long time ago. Recently, our little sister Anne was like, was asked to take the garbage out, and she's like, will you come stand by the door? And so I came, and I opened the door, and Anne's going out and like taking the garbage out, and I'm like walking around away from the door, and I'm yelling to the door, I'm still here.
With the door just cracked open.
The door is just open, and I'm like walking through the house away from her, and she's obviously she could tell I wasn't there.
We just have so much to say about this film, and I almost feel bad because we've been talking for so long, and we're not even halfway through the movie.
I know, but I was just surprised by how many things I liked. Because my favorite scenes were, I actually really enjoyed Snow White. I think that was the biggest thing that stood out to me in this time. I think kind of, as a kid, of course you love Snow White, because like you love whoever they tell you to love as a kid, you know? But as a teenager, I think I thought she was naive and stupid.
Yeah, she gets a bad rap.
But this time I was watching it, and I was just like, she's just so kind. How can you fault her for that?
So good, yeah.
She's so good to everyone. I mean, if you only take from how people react to her, she has to be a great person.
Yeah, everyone loves her.
The dwarves fall in love with her in literally one day.
She really makes an impact on their life.
Yeah, she serves people, and for being a princess, I mean, I know she's been mistreated her whole life. She's really not jaded, first of all, by all her bad treatment. 2, she's not entitled by the fact that she is a princess, where she's like, I shouldn't be treated like this, and I should be better, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
She's perfectly happy to get her hands dirty and get down to work. And really cares about the people. It just touched my heart when she says that little prayer at her bedside.
Yeah.
And asks for Grumpy to like her. And I was just like, that's so sweet.
I know. She has all these people who like her, but she's really focused on the one person that she feels is having a hard time with all this. You know? She just doesn't want to be living in that house if somebody's not happy with it.
Right. Also, one of my favorite moments, I know this is silly, is when she just comes right out and says, please don't send me away. My evil stepmother will kill me. I'm like, yes, please. Because there's so many times in shows when people just like won't say what's happening. And you're like, if you just freaking gave 30 seconds and explained what you're doing, or what's happening,
might be more
then people would understand what's happening instead of being like getting offended and being like, well, if you want to send me away, I guess I'll go. She actually explains what's going on.
Your stepmother tried to kill you. And she does, and I love that. I also love that she guesses who all of them are.
Yeah, she's obviously a good judge of character because she can really tell.
Yeah, like, I think it shows her a fun side, too.
Yeah, that she's kind of playful.
And she's dancing
cute.
with them, you know, in
the silly song later.
The silly song, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
It's literally called the silly song,
Yeah,
right?
it's called the silly song.
Yeah. That's great, and I love the organ.
Me too. And I just love how the dwarves feel like a little family. Like, they really interact the way a little family would.
Yes, that's true.
They're a bunch of little siblings or something, you know? The way they fight over the pillow in that one part and tear it apart.
And how they all know there's only one pillow down there. And only one person is going to get that pillow. Dopey leaves before everybody else. He's like, they're talking. I'm going to get a head start on this.
And they're all like, Dopey, you're the youngest, please.
And then he's only left with one little feather.
But he's happy with it.
He actually is happy with it. But
loves it very
everyone else has got to be disappointed.
I know. And I love Grumpy. Like, I feel like, you know, all of them are caricatured characters, right? Because they all have kind of their thing.
Yeah.
But they all also seem just inherently sweet and believable
people.
Yeah.
I think they're all really honored to have a princess in their house.
Yeah. Except for Grumpy. But he comes around.
And the kissing scene.
Oh,
where she's kissing
I love that
their
scene.
heads.
That was my favorite scene when I was a kid. Because I love Dopey coming around. This time I noticed how he always goes in for the other kiss and she turns his head to
kiss on the lips.
Yeah. And you're like...
The other kiss. The kiss that shan't be named.
Sorry, he puckers his lips to that, yeah.
But everybody knows what's coming when they're all going off to work again.
I know.
And you know the witch is coming.
And Snow White is making a pie for Grumpy.
I know. I didn't remember that.
I didn't either.
But she put his name on the pie.
So much for me.
It was so sweet.
I know. It looked like a pea pie, but she says later it's a berry pie, and I'm like, those berries are not ready.
Yeah, those berries are unripe.
That's gross.
It's gross.
That's a gross pie.
Don't eat that. Don't eat that.
Maybe she tried to
seriously, you should eat it. You should make an apple pie. And repent of that pie you just made. I don't know who was coloring that and thought, oh, you know what? Let's make this berry pie green. It's a bad idea.
It was really bad.
You see this terrifying cutscene to the witch.
Oh, yeah. We didn't even talk about that, but when she transforms, that's a really well done scene.
Yeah.
I mean, I love all the, like, ingredients, like mummy and the cackling of a hag and all those things, you know? So, and for me, the most chilling, of course, is when she actually leaves the castle and she's walking out and there's that skeleton reaching for, like, that water glass.
Oh, yeah.
And she kicks it over and she's like, need a drink? Or whatever. I don't remember what she says exactly. So chilling. I mean, that was somebody's life. They died. That could have been the huntsman if it had been a long time ago. Oh. By the way, at the moment, I was like, what happened to the huntsman? Is the huntsman the crow?
The huntsman's totally dead.
He's totally dead. He's gone. Either that or he fled.
She probably put him in another mirror.
She probably... She probably did.
Man,
he's in charge of improving her wardrobe every day.
And I think every once in a while, I just really appreciate a show where there's an obvious good guy and a really obvious bad guy. I know it's not exactly true to what life is, really, because everyone has a little bit of good and a little bit of bad in them. But it's really nice to watch a show that's just so simple. Like, you know exactly what you're supposed to be feeling in every single scene.
I'm supposed to be rooting for that person.
And at the end of the show, you're like, I love that person.
I know.
And they overcame a lot of things.
I was actually, really appreciated the way in which Snow White kind of ate the apple and her hand falls out.
Oh, yeah. They didn't
That was
show
really
her collapsing.
chilling, yeah. I don't know if that was an animation choice because it would just be difficult or take unnecessary time, but it was just really dramatic. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Just to see her hand, and you're like... Oh,
she eats the apple, spoiler.
Oh, yeah.
Spoiler.
But I do have to say, I used to think Snow White was a lot stupider. I was like, don't eat the apple. Obviously. She's like a little crony salesman, like,
yes.
eat this apple. It's really beautiful.
Which only shows you, like, how much more evil she is.
She's very crafty.
Because she comes to the door like a salesman. And I'm like, oh man, she's got to be evil now.
I know.
If I wasn't sure before, I'm sure now.
Because first she's like, here, eat this, bake this into a pie, and then your guys will really like it.
She probably saw the pie that she was making, and she's like, you should make an apple pie. She's probably giving her, like, real advice. She's like, I know you're going to be dead in a couple minutes, but you shouldn't give them that.
the doors are lucky you're not going to make that. But yeah, so she kind of starts with that tactic, and then she moves on to, like...
guilt. She's like, oh, your animals hurt me.
They hurt me. I'm so tired. Let me in your house.
Snow White's, of course, like, come in.
I know. Ultimately, she has the tragic flaw, right? Because that's what it is. Like, tragic characters are supposed to have a flaw that's really something good about them that becomes a tragic flaw of them. And I think that's Snow White, right? She's so nice, and ultimately that's what kills her.
Yeah.
Her naivete and her love of life and just belief in the goodness of people. Yeah. And it's not such a bad flaw to have.
Yeah.
Because as the show shows, it rallies people around you.
Yeah, totally.
Who want to help you and who love you.
But it wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough.
But it was.
But it was.
It is interesting, though, we were talking about this right after the show ended, but the last thing that the witch says before she eats the apple is, it will make... she's like, I'm going to tell you a secret because you were so nice to me. She's like, this apple will make all of your dreams come true. Which, from Snow White's perspective, is kind of true. I mean, she's dead for a year, and we see some really beautiful scenes with the dwarves crying, which are really heartbreaking. But it goes through all the seasons. She wakes up to her prince there.
And they go off to their castle.
She probably woke up like, that was the best witch I ever met.
I love that witch.
I mean, she probably
always be nice to strangers.
Always be nice to strangers because they make your dreams come true. She probably created a whole generation of Snow White.
I know, right?
That all died.
I do love that the witch like makes the apple and then is like, oh wait, this might have a cure. And then like goes and looks in the book and she's like, darn it, if true love kisses her, like, that's fine.
That won't be a problem.
She'll get buried alive. It's no problem.
Yeah. She'll be buried alive.
She said like 8 times. She's like, buried alive, buried alive.
But then her beauty comes in to save her because it says on the screen, it's just like in that fantasy book kind of text. It's like,
storybook text.
The dwarves thought she was too beautiful, and so they didn't bury her, and they put her into a glass coffin.
And they kept vigil. Like, they're standing there when the prince comes. You're like,
putting fresh flowers.
Do they just like do that every night? They're like, bye, Snow White. We love you so much.
It's like in their backyard.
Yeah, and
it's
kind of
creepy.
It is a little creepy. But maybe it's more like they come out for like a nightly vigil type thing, or like a morning thing where they refresh her flowers or something.
Oh yeah,
it's just so sweet. Like Grumpy's putting the flowers on her, and their crying scene right after she died. It was a lot for me. I was like, this is a little too much. Yeah. First, it was good.
And I was really happy that she got with the prince at the end.
I was too.
Normally I'm like, she doesn't even know this guy, but
yeah.
I don't know if I was just in the moment, but I was like, she deserves this.
She deserves this. Well, and the prince too, he seems very sweet from what we've seen of him. And I think that when he kisses her, he doesn't know she's... I think that he doesn't know that she's going to come back to life. The way that he acts, because he kind of bows his head, which I hadn't noticed before.
Yeah.
So I think he's really surprised when she comes back to life. He's just come
to pay like his respects, which I think is really admirable for a person who never even met her, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And he's still... I mean, that says something about his character, that after all this time, he seeks her out, he hears about it, and he travels all that way to come and see her.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then literally comes almost like a curtain call. Like, there's flowers, they're putting her on the horse, and you have to think, she's just coming out of this groggy sleep. She almost looks dazed.
Kind of, they make it look like she's like, oh wow,
what's happening?
What's happening? Why is everyone so excited?
Oh, bye everybody.
She's just kind of like, wow, going along with the flow because she's Snow White and she can handle that. I'd be like, put me down.
Tell me what's happening. Why am I here? Etc.
Exactly.
But she has, luckily for Snow White, she looks really beautiful in her sleep. No bed hair or anything, so that's good.
She looks amazing.
Yeah. But,
like me. Remember?
Like, oh right, both of us. Yeah. That's exactly how it is when we wake up. But, and she's taken off with the prince, and I love that it's a very magical, almost mystical ending.
He takes her to a castle in the sky.
Yeah, it looks like there's gonna, just dreams. And in case anything was, in case you were worried in any way about Snow White, it ends with, of course, happily ever after. It tells you on the screen, they both lived happily ever after. Yeah. There's no implication. It's like, no, they did. Yeah. So it's really beautiful.
Anyways, if I was in the premiere audience, I totally would be.
Yeah, it is the first time I've ever seen a cartoon like that.
I would be crying.
Imagine the first time you've ever felt Disney magic. Yeah. And this is the first time it's ever happened. This is the first time. I mean, I cry at you're learning too much about me, but I cried at Fantasmic when we went to Disneyland recently, 20-year-old or whatever. Mickey's coming. His dreams are coming true. All of this aside, Jonah, does Snow White hold up for you? Is it how you remembered it?
It's not how I remembered it, because I didn't remember very much. It was better, actually. It was better than I remembered it. I kind of expected it to go in and think, oh wow, they've done so much things that are better than this now. But honestly, even the animation, I wasn't that disappointed in. I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, I think for me, it was how I remembered it, in that when I was a kid, I remember thinking Snow White's face was kind of weird.
Yeah,
and that's true. It is kind of weird. She closes her eyes through 50% of the movie, I swear.
It's true.
But otherwise, I think I agree with you. I think that it was a richer experience than I expected, especially kind of knowing a little bit of the history. And really, honestly, the dwarves are so delightful. I remember that when I was a kid, and it's still true now. They're just so fun. And it's not a serious affair, and it's an hour and 20 minutes. But, yeah. So I would say it's not how I remember it. I didn't stand up and scream at the TV this time. But I still didn't want her to eat the apple. Of course. But, yeah, so I would say it was better than I expected. So better than I remembered it.
So anyway,
I think overall, yes, I would say it does.
It does.
It's a little better, even.
Yeah.
And historically, unparalleled. I think what really sums it up in the end is actually a quote that Disney said that we heard it in this documentary, and it was so beautiful, and I think it really sums up kind of that Disney magic, everything.
Yeah, when we heard it, we were like, yes, that's exactly what Snow White is. It says, over at our place, we're sure of just one thing. Everybody in the world was once a child. So in planning a new picture, we don't think of grown-ups and we don't think of children, but just of that fine, clean, unspoiled spot down deep in every one of us that maybe the world has made us forget.
Now you know our thoughts on the matter, but we want to hear yours. What does Snow White mean to you?
Do you whistle while you work? Do apples make you shudder? Send us your experiences, both good and bad, so we can share them.
You can email us those at reelrecollectionspodcast@gmail.com. That's Reel spelled R-E-E-L. Or you can post it on our Facebook page or Twitter by searching Reel Recollections.
And like, subscribe, and leave a review if you like what we're doing. Otherwise, how did you make it to this point? Bye!
Bye!